House Republicans gear up to unveil their tax reform bill today, a plan that President Trump reportedly wanted to call the Cut Act. Yesterday, the commander-in-chief tweeted some suggestions to Congress about the tax legislation, writing this: "Wouldn't it be great to repeal the very unfair and unpopular individual mandate in Obamacare and use those savings for further tax cuts for the middle class?" The House and Senate should consider ASAP, as the process of final approval moves along, push biggest tax cuts ever. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders weighed in on the president's tweets during a news conference yesterday.
In terms of the mandate, we're focused on pushing through tax cuts and tax reforms separately. Obviously, we've never made it a secret that we'd like to repeal and replace Obamacare. We'd still like to do that, but we still think it's probably more likely to do something like that in the spring.
Joining us right now is the president of the American Action Forum, economic advisor to John McCain's 2008 presidential campaign, and former Congressional Budget Office Director Doug Holtz-Eakin. Doug, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maria.
We know basically what we're going to get, right? 20% corporate rate. We've got that the highest rate on individuals going to stay at 39.6%. This is assumptions, obviously. What's your take on what we know so far out of this plan?
I think we're going to see the president, reach his political commitment for a big middle-class tax cut. I think we're going to see the corporate rate come down. We're going to move to a territorial system. We'll have some investment incentives. But I think the key is to really look at the plan as a whole and answer the question, will we get better economic performance? Will we get growth out of this? Because that's the part that benefits every American. That's what's been missing for years. And I think that's got to be the primary goal of this reform.
Now, obviously, the state and local tax deduction, which is going to be eliminated, is causing great controversy. Yesterday on this program, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo spoke to me about the impact of the GOP tax reform plan on this state, on New York. Listen to what he had to say.
Their plan is a scam, to use a word, which is a little harsh so early in the morning. It's a tax cut plan. Scam. It is a tax cut plan for some people and for some states. It's basically a tax cut plan for corporations. For a state like New York, a state like California, that has state and local taxes, it's a tax increase, because they have eliminated the deductibility of state and local taxes.
Now, Doug, we've got Don Peebles here, and I'm going to get him in this in a second because he's a leading real estate developer in New York. But do you agree with what the governor just said?
No, I don't. I think the Republicans have committed that every American will get a tax cut. And to look at only one provision is to miss the point of tax reform. When they unveil this plan, there's going to be something in there that everyone dislikes. That's the nature of tax reform. There are going to be provisions that every individual would like to see come out, but there are going to be things in there that they like. And what you need to do is evaluate the plan as a whole. If you're living in New York State, what is the overall impact on your tax liability? What is the overall impact on the incentives for businesses to invest, innovate, hire people in America, pay them better wages? What's the economic growth consequences? You have to look at it holistically, because provision by provision doesn't make any sense.
We've got to get James Freeman and Dagan McDowell in here, but first, your thoughts. You are a real estate developer in New York, Don Peebles. Impact to New York.
Look, an increase. At the top bracket, it will be an increase for individuals because they will lose the deductibility. I believe that if this tax policy gets through with a elimination of the deduction for state and local income taxes, I think there will be a mass exodus of wealthy people out of New York City and out of the state of California. Because let's think about it. In New York and California, the top bracket between state, federal and local income taxes is about 53%.
That's right.
So you can move to Florida, Nevada, Texas, and a few other places in this country that have no state income taxes. And if you are a business owner or entrepreneur, your tax rate will go from 53% to 25%, a 55% plus tax cut. There would be no rational reason for wealthy people to stay here. And wealthy people have the freedom of mobility. I can move my company anywhere in the United States, I choose to move.
Are you going to move out?
And what happens next?
Are you going to move out?
Look, it'll be hard. Look, I won't be able to be mayor from Florida, mayor of New York. So there's a plus, and the cost of being in politics may be prohibitive at that point. But look, I think in a serious sense, I think we already see many New Yorkers become Florida residents. You see some of the top wealthy New Yorkers having Florida residences. So they'll flick a switch just like David Tepper did in New Jersey and leave. And they will then leave the resources of New York State and city reeling from a loss of revenue.
Well, I want to quickly point.
What are New York and New Jersey going to do? Finally reform. Finally have an incentive.
Will they, though?
Because they're not being subsidized anymore.
Not 2 years.
They're not going to be subsidized anymore to have these high tax rates, which people here keep voting for.
Right. But this is why Governor Cuomo takes issue with Republican lawmakers from southern states and other states of lecturing him.
They should lecture him.
No, they shouldn't. You know why? Because in terms of subsidies, in terms of what New York pays into the federal fisc and what we take, this state takes 81 cents on the dollar. It's the third worst per capita.
Right.
Connecticut takes. Let me just finish, because somebody was ridiculing me on Twitter about this yesterday.
Oh, come on.
Connecticut takes 82 cents on the dollar. New Jersey only takes from the federal government 74 cents for every dollar paid in taxes. Do you know who are the biggest takers from the federal fisc? New Mexico, West Virginia, Mississippi, Alabama, Virginia, and Kentucky.
Right.
Some of those states get more in terms of Medicaid and Medicare dollars because they're aging societies. Some of those states, but not Virginia,
not Kentucky.
This is because we have a highly progressive tax system, and because people in states like New York make a lot more money than people in other states. And all the people here who are making all the money are also voting for these high tax rates. Maybe they ought to live with them.
But 10% paid 70% of the earnings.
Right. I understand Governor Cuomo taking issue with being lectured by Republican lawmakers from other states when they're like, we're not takers, we're givers. As taxpayers in this state, we're givers to the federal fisc, not takers.
No question.
It's the southern states that are big takers. They take way more than they put in.
Doug, what do you have to say about all this, Doug? Huh?
Look, number one, I think we wait till 11 o'clock and we find out the facts.
No,
and I believe the facts of the case will show that.
We don't have to wait till 11 o'clock. We know already. The deduction is going to leave. We're not going to have that deduction.
Probably not in its entirety. There's been a lot of talk about shaving it back, but not eliminating it entirely. So let's see exactly what they did. They were at it all night. Lots of things were moving. I am interested to see where it landed. Number two, I think the bottom line is this. If New York City or New York State can't make a value proposition to someone without a federal subsidy, that's their problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the fundamental economics of the issue.
But when you put it this way, when Don puts it this way, you either have a 53% tax rate in New York or 25% in Florida.
Right. And that's why the value proposition becomes weaker. And then add to it, as a business owner, all of the regulations. There's now a regulation that an employer in New York City cannot ask a prospective employee how much they earn currently.
We will leave it there. Final word. Thank you, Doug. Doug Holtz-Eakin. You got us all fired up, Doug.